Hey makeup friends, welcome back to another collection video. This time we're going to be doing all of my Chic products. So I have all of my face palettes out here. In this container that you can see over here, I have all of my single blushes, highlighters, and bronzers. And then there's another container sitting on top of it that you can't see right now that has all of my cream products in it. But first up, we're going to go through the palettes. So sitting on top here is from Viseart. It's one of their Theory palettes. This one's in the shade Ablaze. It's just a very standard 3-pan palette. It's quite nice. It is a bit on the lighter side, this bronzer in particular. This one's good for me in winter, but in the summertime it just doesn't really stand up all that well. Next we'll talk about the Natasha Denona Bloom Blush and Glow palette. And this is one that I still haven't figured out how I feel about it, to be honest. It's pretty, and yet I just don't tend to reach for it very often. This formula in this shade here is a bit like a cream to powder kind of formula. This one actually feels a little bit creamier to me than that one does. And the shades are very pretty, but I have to, be careful, especially with that really dark shade here, because that can come across really strong. Whereas this one just barely shows up at all. Like I can't even see that on my skin. So I kind of have to play around with it and just, it's one of those palettes that I can't just grab and like throw on really easily. I really have to think about it and like take my time, or else it goes like 0 to 100 in a nanosecond and then it's just altogether too much. But the tones are really pretty. This one here is from Chantecaille, and a subscriber sent this to me, which is just so amazingly generous. It's so kind. And this is the Radiance Chic, Cheek, and Highlight Duo in Coral. I mean, first of all, that packaging, come on, it's beautiful. And then it's just a little duo in here. And I was worried that these would be really subtle. I don't know, I have it in my mind that luxury products are like super subtle for some reason. Oh, I forgot to wipe those ones off, my bad. But these ones are actually really pretty. Ugh, I don't know what's going on here. I think I'm allergic to the metal in my watch strap. So it's all like scabbed and scarred. It's brutal. But there they are there. I have two Jouer Cheek palettes here. This one is the Bouquet d'Amour. It's a 6-pan palette. I like the powders in here. It's just the tones I just don't get a ton of use out of. This one I actually prefer it as more of like an eyeshadow. This is the only one that actually shows any real signs of wear, and to a lesser degree this one up here. But these ones are just really strong on me. This one is pretty, but I tend to mix these two back and forth. But overall it's not super flattering on me, unfortunately. But this one you've heard me rave non-stop about. This is the Champagne and Macaroons in Sweet Cheeks. And I effing love this palette. Unfortunately, it came a little bit shattered just in shipping, but this highlighter, Citrine, oh my lord. When I was talking about my favorite highlighters in a recent collab that I did with Kate the Great, this is the one that I ranked #1. It's so beautiful. It just gives you that like ethereal, lit from within kind of glow. And it's just like my favorite highlighter. I think it's so, so beautiful. And then this blush over here as well. It's just got enough depth to it to give it sort of a realistic flush to the cheeks. But it also plays really nicely with this more shimmery one, which I can use sort of as a topper, make it look a little bit more glowy. And then the bronzer as well is just, oh, it's got knocked about in shipping. But it's such a nice, realistic kind of bronze for my skin tone. It just warms up my skin enough without looking orange or anything of that sort. It's just, I adore this palette. I really can't say enough good things about it. This one here is from MAC. It was part of their 2019 holiday collection, I believe. If not 2018, I can't remember off the top of my head. But This was just their face trio that they put out. And again, it's just a solid trio. The bronzer has a nice amount of warmth to it without being too orangey. This blush is a beautiful coral shade. You can see I've got quite a good amount of wear out of them. And it's one that I have no intentions on decluttering because I just think it's so pretty. And the highlighter as well, not glittery or chunky in any way. Just a really nice palette. This is Moonchild from ABH, and it just adds like some fun to my collection because it's those like duochromatic sort of iridescent looking highlighters. And so you've got basically any shade that you would want. Like there's a pink, there's a purple, there's a green, it's more of a silvery tone. And they're so pretty. I also like to use these in the inner corner just to add a little pop of color, but it's just such a pretty palette. This one is the Moon Prism Blush Palette from Huda Beauty, and I believe it just very recently restocked. And this is one of those like run, don't walk situations because this palette is stunning. Usually when I deal with cheek palettes, there's usually a shade or two that really don't flatter, especially when there's like at least 6 or more pans in there. And yet these all work so nicely. This is very light, but I can mix it with other shades. This works more like a bronzer on me, but I can use it as a blush. This is the only sort of shimmery one in here, and even at that it's more like a satin, but it's a nice topper for all of the other shades. Like it's just a beautiful cheek palette, and these the formula of these powders, they're like silk. They're so smooth. I've got another Natasha Denona face palette here. This one is the Diamond and Blush, and this one's in the shade Daria. And there it is. I, for whatever reason, don't use it very often, but when I do enjoy it. But here we have like some cream products up here. I'm really gonna have to start focusing on this because these cream products are starting to get a little dry. And then you have like the highlighter here. This is like a blush topper up here. This one's more like a blush, and then this is like a really glittery sort of diamond finish. And they all pair really nicely together, but I don't know why I don't use it more often than I do, but I really do want to get a little bit more use out of these two, so I need to focus on this one. The last two of my palettes, this one is from Hourglass. This is the Ghost Edit that they released in the holidays for 2019, and it's just a little 4-pan here. I like their powders, but no, I'm just not a huge Hourglass fan. I don't know what it is. Their single blushes, I think, are the best ones that they have out there, but this is the only face palette that I've been tempted by. I'm just, I don't know. I think there's better products out there. I mean, if you're a huge Hourglass fan, then these holiday releases that they put out is a good way to get a bunch of their products all in one shot. But for me, it's just, I don't know. I don't really reach for this one, and yet I don't want to let it go because it was so ridiculously expensive. So yeah, there's that. Now this one you've probably heard me mention over and over again in various different videos. This is the Cali Contour Kit from Smashbox, and it's fantastic. This contour shade, I don't know if you can really see like just how much of a dip I've got going on in there. It's such a nice contour shade because it's not too ashy, but there's really no warmth to it. It's right on that like neutral leaning cool toned, so it gives a really realistic looking shadow on my skin. And then the blush is just, again, really realistic. The bronzer has just a hint of warmth to it, but it's not orangey in any sense. This one I can use underneath the eyes to help brighten it up a little bit. And then you've got 2 highlighter options. This is the only one that I really don't get a lot of use out of, but you can see that I've certainly worked the heck out of that. And it's a palette that I just continually reach for over and over again. So here is the container with all of my cream products in it. Actually, now that I see this one, I should say almost all, because I do have another one of these upstairs in my bathroom, but I'm not going to go up 2 flights of stairs just to show you. Sorry. This is from Incredible. This one is in the shade Be My First Kiss, and I think the other one is like Be My First Love or something like that. It's like a dusty pink kind of shade, and this one's more of like a burnt apricot kind of shade, I guess. But these are actually really nice, and I think they were like $10 or something at Sephora, maybe 12 Canadian, but they actually blend out really nicely and they have good longevity on the cheeks as well. Now, this was an absolute impulse buy when I saw it on sale at Sephora. This is from Tom Ford, the Glow Drops in Glacial Rose. And the packaging's kind of cool, like you turn it and that's where the little thing comes up, and then it's like got a little stopper and you can pick up the product and then drop the product out, and that's kind of cool and all, but I wish I'd gotten a different shade. I think this is the only shade that was available, but it's just a little deep on me. It's not so bad in the summer, but I can definitely get away with wearing it underneath foundation, but it's not my favorite product, that's for sure. But I continue to work with it and try to make it work for me, simply because of the name that it bears, basically. And even though it was on sale, it was still pricey for what it is. By contrast, this one is much easier to work with. This one is from Rare Beauty, and this is the Liquid Luminizer in Mesmerize. And I was a little concerned that this one might be too deep for me, but once it's blended out, it's actually really flattering on the skin. It does give a little bit of warmth to my skin tone, but it doesn't like have a weird cast to it or anything of that sort. Hoping that you can see it. I have a feeling my hands are going to be like glitter balls by the end of this. But I think it blends out really nicely. I find it easier to work with than the cream blushes, which we're going to get to. I've got a couple of them. So if you're in the market for a liquid highlighter, this is one that I would definitely suggest checking out. There's like 7 or 8 different shades, so there's something for everybody, but it is a really nice product. I have some Charlotte Tilbury products here. So I have 2 of her beauty light wands. I have Spotlight and Pillow Talk, and these are beautiful on the skin. Absolutely beautiful. Pillow Talk is a little bit more on the pink side. There it is. And then Spotlight is a little bit more champagne-y. I'm not sure if the lighting, yeah, there you can see the difference there. And I just find that a little goes a long way, but it blends out beautifully. It gives you this like gorgeous, seamless glow to the skin. It is very reflective. They're absolutely beautiful. I would 100% repurchase these once I get through these. In the same vein, I also have the contour wand. I have it in fair medium, and it looks really scary, like it looks really dark, but it blends out so nicely. I really like this. This one's almost empty, and I would definitely consider repurchasing this one. My other Charlotte Tilbury product here, I don't know what happened to the lettering, but it got all wonky, but it's the Flawless Filter for a blah 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 blah. It's got like some huge long name, but the Flawless Filter, just remember that. And this one is in shade 2, and this is so pretty on the skin. I can wear it under foundation and it just kind of peeks through, or I can wear it on top of foundation and it gives like a more subtle glow than what the Beauty Light Wands do, but it just brings so much like glow to the skin, and it's so pretty. This one here is along the same lines as the Charlotte Tilbury light ones, but at a fraction of the cost. This one is from a Canadian brand called Annabelle, which you can find at like Walmart and Shoppers Drug Mart, Rexall, places like that. And these are the Enlighten Highlight Drops. This one is in the shade Champagne. It has a slightly different applicator. It's just a little squeeze tube, but it really does give virtually the same effect as Spotlight from Charlotte Tilbury. These are the 2 Rare Beauty liquid blushes that I have. This one, full size, is in the shade Joy, and then I have just a little sample here in, what is this one? Oh gosh, Grace. And it's a really pretty, almost purpley kind of pink, but it's really pretty. Joy is more like an apricot coral kind of shade. Now, believe me, like that's basically all you need on your cheeks. Like this is gonna last forever. And then it just blends and blends and blends. It never stops. So this is definitely one of those products that I would suggest use like a tiny amount and then build up from there, because it is super pigmented and it is so blendable. It is beautiful, but there is a bit of a learning curve. So trust me, you don't want to go like dotting it like you would other cream blushes. One little tiny dot and then you can always build up from there. But it does last all day on the skin. There's no stickiness to it. It is absolutely beautiful, but you do need to work quickly. And like I said, just a tiny little bit will do you. By contrast, both of these liquid blushes, one from Fuego Beauty and the other one from Maybelline, you can go a little bit more heavy-handed with these because they are definitely more sheer than what the Rare Beauty is. They're both fairly good. I would go for the Maybelline over the Fuego, but honestly, I would go for the Rare Beauty if you can spare the extra dollars for that one. I would go for that one because these ones will fade throughout the day more so than the Rare Beauty. This is a cream blush that I still am on the fence about. I've had it for ages and I'm still undecided as to whether or not I like it. This is from Tower 28. This is in the shade Golden Hour. And I think it's just, it comes down to the shade for me. I will say it is like a rather thick cream, so it's almost sticky, to be honest. And I think it's just like a deeper version of the Rare Beauty. And it does blend out nicely, but of the two, I would go for the Rare Beauty, to be honest. And I think the Rare Beauty is going to last longer than this one, because like I said, this one is starting to feel really sticky. And I mean, on the skin, once it's blended out, it doesn't feel sticky, but just for ease of application, I think once you figure out the learning curve for Rare, that's the way to go. I have 5 of the cream blushes from Fenty. One of them was sent to me by accident by Sephora, and that just happened to work out well in my favor, and that was the shade Rose Latte. I'll just open them all up to show you. So that one is Rose Latte. It looks really scary in the pan, and yet it does blend out really nicely and shears out to like a reddish brownish kind of sheen. And then this one is Fenty Glow, which is available in the trio that they released for holidays. It doesn't look like much in the pan, but it just really gives this beautiful, natural looking flush on my skin tone. This one here is Crush on Cupid. A bright pink. Again, these blend out really nicely, so they look super, I mean, they're super concentrated in the pan, but once they blend out, they're just so pretty. And then this one is Strawberry Drip. And then this is my least favorite of them. This one is Fuego Flush. And I think I would like it more if it didn't have this like gold shimmer running through it. If it was just straight orange, I would have been happier. All right, I have 3 cream bronze products here. This one is from Huda Beauty. This is the Tan Tour in Fair. And it's meant to be like more like a contouring kind of shade, but I find that it has just a bit too much warmth for that for me. So while I can use it as a contour, it works better as a bronzer on my skin, to be honest. It needed to be just a little bit cooler for my liking. This one here is from Tarte, and this is the Breezy Cream Bronzer in the shade Seychelles. It's very similar to the Huda Beauty one. And then I have this one here from Chanel. This is the Soleil Tan de Chanel. Does anybody know if this is what they're now calling like the Le Beige bronzer? Because I can't find Tan de Chanel on the site, but it looks very similar, this Le Beige, or Le Beige, I don't know how to say it. But you can see just how much of a dent I've put into this one. I'll try not to dig it all up underneath my nail. This one works well on my skin tone, but I think if you were a medium skin tone, it certainly isn't going to show up very much. But I like it because it does warm up my skin, but it's a lot more subtle than these two. But if I go in with the light hand with these, they work well and they blend out really nicely, but I really like the tone of the Chanel. And I friggin' love the way it smells. It's so nice. Then last for cream products are these two here from ColourPop. This is the blush stick in 25-8 and the light stick in Starbright. This one is really pretty. Like, it just high impact for sure, and yet it blends out really nicely, as does the blush. And they do have really good longevity on the skin as well. Now before we get into this holder here, I do have some oversized items that don't fit in any of the other containers, so I'll just go through those. This one here is from Charlotte Tilbury, and it has such beautiful packaging. This is the Airbrush bronzer in the shade Medium. It's a massive pan, absolutely massive. It's a very matte bronzer. It's not my favorite, to be honest, but I don't mind the shade of it, but it just, I don't know, it's just not my favorite bronzer. The powder itself is beautiful, but for being the shade Medium, it is very light. I'm very glad that I didn't get the fair one because it wouldn't have shown up. Medium barely shows up on my skin as it is. This one is from Marc Jacobs, and this is the Omega bronzer in shade 102 Tantric. I found this at Winners, and the bummer is that the clasp broke like the first day that I had it, so it just doesn't, it won't close. So I have to stack something on top of it. But this one, the shade is much better for me. It's just a little bit deeper and a little bit warmer than the Charlotte Tilbury. Oh god, this lighting. Doing the best I can, guys. This bronzer here is from Guerlain. This is part of their holiday collection for 2020. And this is the Golden Bee Terracotta, whatever the hell, illuminating powder it's called. It's a bronzer by any other name. There it is. And then this little insert and the pan can be removed, and then this can become like, I don't know, earring storage or something. I don't know what I'd store in there, but there it is. This one I think is probably one of the warmest bronzers that I have, and it does have a really pretty sheen to it as well. But this is one that I have to kind of go in with a light hand just because it does pull a bit orange on me. This is the Contour Sculpting Powder from Natasha Denona, and I have it in the shade Light. And again, I'm not sure if you can see, it's got quite the dent in it. I really do like this one as well, so I oscillate between this one and the one in the Smashbox face kit, the Cali Contour Kit. This one's a little bit lighter on my skin than the Cali Contour is. Oh god, this lighting is just not helping the cause here. Sorry about that. I really like this. I mean, the powder is incredibly smooth, and it does a good job at creating shadows on my skin. I find since I've lost as much weight as I have and my face has really changed that I don't do a lot of contouring anymore. But when I do, like I said, it's either this one or the Smashbox, and they're both really good. Frankly, for the price point, I would go for the Cali Contour Kit, to be honest, because you get all those other powders in there, and it's not much more expensive, if it is even more expensive than this one. Like, I feel like they're fairly comparable. This here is from Cover Effects. This is one of their monochromatic blush duos in Mojave Mauve. I really don't like the packaging on these, to be honest. It kind of looks like a soap. Like, it just, I don't know. I just wanted something a little bit more punchy, but on the inside, the powders are beautiful. I run hot and cold with this. It took me a little while to kind of figure it out and get on board. I wasn't really sure what to do with this, but if I layer the two of them together, they look beautiful on the skin. When I first got it, I was using this as a blush and this as a highlight, and pink highlights and I don't get along, but as a blush topper, it is very pretty. This is another product here from Natasha Denona. This is the I Need a Nude Glow highlighter. And she is so pretty. So pretty. It is like actual velvet in the pan. Like, it's so nice. This is the deepest highlight that I own. So I do have to go in with a light hand, but it just blends into the skin so nicely. There's no glitter particles in there. It just catches the light and bounces it right back so beautifully. This here is from Tarte, and this is one of the double take cream and powder blush duos in Do We Know Her? And I much prefer this to his single pan blushes. I have one of those, we'll come across it at some point, but I really like the packaging too. Like, it has a little cover so that the cream products remain unharmed from the powder. These ones I find are just more pigmented than his single pan blushes. So if you're in the market for a blush, I would invest in this over the single pan if you're looking at Tarte. And then this one here, I could not resist the packaging. This is part of the Marc Jacobs Holiday 2020 collection. This is in the shade Guilty, which I believe is a re-promote. I believe that's an existing shade. But in, obviously, his holiday packaging, which I adore. And this one as well is a little bit on the deeper side for me, but again, if I go in with a light hand, I don't have a problem with it at all. Just, oh, you know what, this might actually be deeper than the Natasha Denona. Just a hair. But for reference sake, I have NC20 skin, and I can pull both of these off, but I just can't like build either one of them up. Alright, so now is time to go through this container worth of Chic products here. This sits inside my Alex drawer, so I have two that hold up this desktop. The only problem with the Alex drawers is that they don't pull all the way out, so getting into these last two rows can be a little tricky, but, you know, ideal. It's okay. Okay, I'm gonna move this over, and we're gonna go like product type by product type. So I'm gonna start with bronzers because there's the least of those. I don't really have a ton of bronzers, to be honest. I don't get excited about bronzers in the way that I do about some other products. So I have two Fenty bronzers here. Obviously one is a full size and one is a mini. The mini is in the shade Shady Biz, which is a little bit deeper. And then this one is Into Sun, which is the lightest one that they have. And there you can see the difference between them. Into Sun is a little bit more neutral, whereas this one has a little bit more warmth to it. This one is great on me in winter. This one works great in summer and early fall. So I like having both of them on hand, and I can also like mix them if I need to, but I usually don't need to. But I've got quite the dip going on in this one. And I really like the formula of these bronzers. Also, I apologize if you can hear my stomach gurgling. It does that now. That's just reality after gastric bypass, is that my stomach makes noises that I cannot control, so I apologize if you can hear that. Alright, this one here is from Hourglass, and this is the Ambient Lighting Bronzer. It's just the little mini one, but I have the feeling it's going to last forever because I have used it quite a bit, and you would never be able to tell. It's really pretty though. It's really nice on the skin. It gives just a nice amount of glow without being shimmery or glittery. It's just a really pretty bronzer. And it's completely useless. My hand is already covered in so much highlighter dust that everything's going to look glittery. Let's start off with highlighters. So this one here is from Benefit. This is Cookie. I detest the box packaging. I say that every time I talk about this product because, like, why the fuck? Like, why Benefit? Why? Makes no sense. It's such wasted space. But this highlighter is worth the stupid packaging because this highlighter is so beautiful. It has just a hint of pink to it. I've already got like a dent going on in there, but it just catches the light so nicely. It's stunning. It really is a beautiful highlighter. This one here is from Jouer, and this is Molten Glow, and it's more of like a gold toned highlighter. And again, you can see just how much use I've gotten out of this. I also really like using this one as an inner corner highlight because it has that gold, so it's not too icy in the inner corners. It's just a really pretty highlighter. I will compare it to the ABH and Amrezy one for you, just so you can see the difference between them. So there is the ABH Amrezy, also a more gold toned kind of highlighter. This one feels just a tiny bit drier than the Jouer. You can see the Jouer is a little bit more yellow gold, whereas the Amrezy has a little bit more like a pinky, sort of coppery kind of tone to it. But both of them have been brought back despite them being limited edition. I'm not sure if you can get both of them currently, but I wanted to at least show you the comparison in case you can and in case you're curious. Alright, I'm just going to pull some of them out just so that I don't get myself confused. This one is from Nars, and this is in the shade Capri, and it's sort of like a pearlish kind of finish, like it has a little bit of a pink pull to it, but not too strong. And it's one of those highlighters, again, that just blends so nicely into the skin. It's not as blinding as some of the others, but still catches the light nicely. This is a newer highlighter in my collection. This one is from Dior. It's the Nude Skin in, oh gosh, shade 2. And it has like a hint of pink, but it's really not strong at all. And this is a really pretty formula. This is one that I reach for quite often, as you can see by the amount of wear it has. This one, however, has been in my collection for quite some time. This is from Stila. It's the Heaven's Hue highlighter in Kitten. And again, you can probably see just how much of a dent I've made in it. This feels like actual silk. Like, it is so smooth and so pretty. This is a beautiful highlighter. It's just so nice on the skin. Like, there's nothing chunky about it. It's not dry at all. It doesn't produce like kick up or anything like that. It's not powdery. It's just beautiful. And then we have Melt. This is the Stargazer highlighter, one of the digital dust highlights. Again, you can see I get a lot of use out of my highlighters, at least. This one has a slightly more dry formula than the Stila, but that's not to say it's a bad highlighter at all. You can just see how different highlighters just catch the light differently. This one's a little bit more on the subtle side, and yet it still just brings so much life to the face. Now, this one from Fenty is one that I have considered decluttering in the past, just because I don't tend to reach for this one. This is the Kilowatt highlighter in Lightning Dust and Fire Crystal. And the whole premise behind this is that one is a little bit more subtle and one brings a little bit more sheen. And you can see I've used the hell, especially out of that side, I've used the hell out of it. But it's just, with all the other highlighters that I have, these ones just don't quite stack up. They're not bad, they're kind of forgettable in my opinion. So I just tend not to reach for it all that much anymore. Or when I do, I really have to kind of build them up just to get the intensity that I want. But they're not bad highlighters for what it's worth. Now this is from ColourPop here, and this is the Horse and Carriage. This was part of their Disney collection that they put out, I want to say about a year or so ago. And there she is. I like this one because it is like a pressed powder. I do have one of their Super Shock ones, and we'll get to that. That one took me a while to figure out how to use it. But like, look how pretty that is. Like, that's so pretty. I need to remember how gorgeous that is because I rarely use it, and yet there it is. and especially as we move into winter, because this one is a little bit icier. But as I've lost most of my color from the summer, and I don't do the self-tan thing, I just can't be bothered, this works really nicely on my skin at this time of year. And then over here we have Urban Decay. This is the Afterglow highlighter in Sin. And this is one that I have hit pan on. I've had it for quite some time. I can't say it's like a favorite highlighter of mine, but it really is a good highlighter. It's a nice champagne kind of color. Doesn't quite stack up to that ColourPop though, does it? Okay, and this is the last round of the highlighters here. So this is that ColourPop Super Shock Chic, Cheek, whatever, I can never say it. Super Shock Cheek. Good lord, it's in the shade Flexitarian. And this one is so pretty. You can see I've hit pan on this one as well. This one, it took me a while to figure out how in the heck to apply it, because going in with a fluffy brush was just a disaster. It just never worked and I was super frustrated with it. I use the rougher number 4 brush and it works perfectly. Suggest a more densely packed brush if you don't have the rougher 4, and that would help a lot because it just picks it up so nicely and then blends it onto the skin beautifully. But this one is so gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Then I have this one here from Kaleidos. This is the Moon Cruiser in Space Age. I have Mars Melter, is that what it's called? Mars Melter and one other that I can't remember the name of on its way to me, but it's stuck in postage purgatory at this point. This one here, like I said, is Space Age, and it's got like a nice little shift to it. Like a pinky purple kind of duochrome situation going on there. So pretty. These just apply to the skin so nicely. And this one here is from Clinique, and this is the Powder Pop Flower Highlighter in Lunar Pop. It's a little bit of a drier formula. I will say this one's not really my favorite. Kind of glad that I got it with points at Shoppers Drug Mart. It's on the more subtle side. So if that's your shtick, then this might be something that you're interested in, but I don't often reach for this one. It's good for court dates though. Just in case anybody's watching and doesn't know, I'm not like a repeat offender, I'm a lawyer, just so you're aware. I have 2 highlighters here from MAC. This one here is Soft and Gentle, and somebody had recommended to me in the comments of my favorite highlighters video that I try this one, and I gapped. I knew I had it, but I should have responded and said, yeah, I do have that one and it is great, but for whatever reason it just kind of skipped my mind. But it is so nice, and Soft and Gentle is a really good descriptor for it, because although it catches the light nicely, it really isn't obvious about it, and there's no like glitter particles or anything like that in there. And this one here from MAC is part of their Holiday 2020 collection, and this is called Let It Glow. And this one is the iciest of the highlighters that I have. It's basically a pearlized white, and yet it's still pretty on the skin. Like it blends out nicely, and it doesn't have like a harsh cast or anything like that. So again, this is one of those highlighters that at this time of year works really well on my skin tone. Moving over here, this was part of that little trio that I talked about with the cream blush. So this is the Diamond Balm in Fenty Glow, and this is really nice. I thought that it might be a little too glittery, and yet it's really not at all. It has a nice like pinkish kind of base to it, and yet it's really flattering, I think, because there's enough depth to it. And while it is glittery, like it's not chunky, and those little flecks of glitter are, you could basically just call them shimmer. In fact, I think I called them aggressive shimmer when I was talking about this, because that's basically what it is. It's not, I mean, don't let the idea of it being glittery kind of put you off, because it's not glittery in the way that we typically think of highlighters as being glittery. It's just a really pretty and flattering finish, to be honest. These two are from Becca. These are the pressed, what the heck, shimmering skin perfectors. This one is in the shade Moonstone, which is a really pretty kind of champagne-y shade. And then this one is Champagne Pop. And again, I've hit Pam on that one. I'll just do a really quick comparison for you. Moonstone is definitely lighter than Champagne Pop, but both of them work really nicely on my skin. And these are my last three highlighters here. This one is from JD Glow and it's in the shade Synopsis. And this one packs a punch, that is for sure. This is not an everyday highlighter for me, but it really is fun. It's got a really strong shift to it, sort of bluish, almost purpley kind of tones in there. It's really pretty. And this one is from Givenchy. This is the Mystic Glow Powder in Mystic Pink. This I think was limited edition 2018 or possibly 19, I can't remember. Barrie got it for me for Christmas, whichever year that was. The nice like star printing on it. This one is definitely more on the shimmery side. And yet again, it's a very smooth kind of shimmer and doesn't leave like little chunks of glitter all over your skin. And then the newest highlighter that I have is this one here from Vive, and this is in Holy Chic. And there is a YouTuber here named Altogether Alana, and she sent this to me, and she is just so sweet. I am going to try very hard to remember to link her channel down below, and please go and give her some love. She is Scottish, she has a wonderful accent, and not only did she send me this highlighter, but she picked out some little goodies and treats for me as well, and I'm so blown away by her generosity. That was just so sweet of her. But here is what the highlighter looks like. I believe this is the middle of the three tones that Vive put out. So this one was a little bit too deep for Alana, and it is a bit deeper, but if I go in again with a lighter hand, it really isn't too harsh against my skin at all. It's lighter than, what was the other one? Oh gosh, than the Marc Jacobs one. It's so pretty. The finish of it's so beautiful. I've been really impressed with everything that I've tried from Vive, and I'm really excited to see what they come out with next. Alright, and now we are on to blushes. So I'm going to start with this stack of 4 here. These are from KVD Vegan Beauty, and I love these blushes so much. The formula is so just insanely smooth, and the pigmentation is so nice. So this one is in the shade Rosebud, which, as the name would suggest, it is a very rosy kind of tone. And then over here we have Honeysuckle. It's just a really natural looking blush on my skin. Oh, this lighting. And as expected, I have like little glitter particles from the highlighters all over my hands, so swatching these blushes is going to be a bit of a chore. This one here is Foxglove. This is like a deeper rosy kind of tone. And then this one here is called Poppy. Hold on to your butts. So definitely go in with a light hand because it's like straight up red. But once it's blended out, like it looks so pretty on the skin. This is going to last me approximately 4.5 lifetimes because just the tiniest little bit goes a long way. And yet it is just a really pretty and fun blush. Definitely not for the faint of heart though. I have 2 MAC blushes. This one is Pinch Me, which is the more pink kind of tone. And then I also have Melba, which is definitely more peachy. I also have two Becca blushes. So this one here is Tiger Lily. This is one of the luminous blushes. It's like a shimmery peachy orange. And then this one is Wild Honey, which I adore. I love this blush. It doesn't look like much in the pan, but it's just like a natural looking flush on the skin, and it's so nice. And then because apparently I do everything in twos, I also have two Chanel blushes. So this one is in the shade Rouge Profonde, and again, it's one of these like red, hyper pigmented kind of blushes, so a little goes a long way with this one, but it is really pretty once it's sheared out on the cheeks. And then this one is in the shade Reflex, which is like a shimmery peach. There, hold it that way. It's got a little bit of like gold shimmer running throughout it. Again, nothing glittery, but this one definitely produces a sheen on the skin, and it's really beautiful. I also have two Melt blushes. So this one is the blush in Honey Thief. This one does produce a ton of kick up. It's not my favorite formula of blush, to be honest. The color is really pretty, but I tend to gravitate towards like Melba or Wild Honey over this one. And then this guy here was a newer release this year, and this is Buzzkill. This is one of the Digital Dust Duo blushes. There, so it's like a really pretty corally kind of shade, and then almost like a pinky, peachy kind of highlight, but frankly I like to mix the two of them together. I normally don't like these split pan jobs, but in this instance I think they work really nicely mixed together. I have three Hourglass blushes, so two full size and one mini. This one is in the shade At Night, and it is beautiful. I really like this one. Again, I like when it gives just like that natural looking flush to the skin without being like super obvious, and this one works for me. And this one here is called Diffused Heat. It's just a really pretty pink. And then the mini that I have is Luminous Flush, which is a little bit more on like the purpley pink kind of side. This is one of the Cheek Pops from Clinique, and this is Ginger Pop. The pretty little Gerber daisy, or as my husband refers to it, the anus. Thanks, Bear. Now I can't unsee it. It's terrible. He's ruined it for me. These are actually really pretty. They're super pigmented. Kind of a pain in the butt to store though because they're so thick. It just kind of drives me nuts, but it's really pretty on the skin. Nice little sheen to it as well. This one here is from Charlotte Tilbury, and this is the Cheek to Chic Swish and Pop Blusher in Love Glow. The nipple blush by any other name, except you can't really tell on this one. I'm gonna have to give this one a try now that my tan has faded, because when I got this in the summertime, I was so disappointed in it because it just did not show up on my skin. And I held on to it for a bit too long because when I went to return it to the store, I had missed the return time by like 3 days or something. It was kind of frustrating. But it just doesn't really show up all that well on my skin. So this one is a little bit of a dud to me. I mean, the powder itself feels nice, but it could have the best formula in the world, but if the shade doesn't work for me, it doesn't really matter, does it? This one here is probably the oldest blush that I own, and it's from Milani, and it is in the shade Luminoso. And it's just like, does that not take you back to like OG YouTube days where everybody talked about this one? It's so pretty. Like, there's a reason why everybody raved about this. It's just like this shimmery peach. It's nothing fancy, but it just looks so nice on the skin. Packaging's a bit horrific, but you know, what can you do? Yeah, that worked out well. There was one hiding in there. This one is from Surat, and this is Brillant, I believe is how you pronounce it. I always want to say brilliant, but that's not how it's spelled. And it's like this like electric coral kind of shade. The formula is so nice, but like, holy crap, it packs a punch. You gotta go easy on this one, or you go from 0 to clown really quickly. But the formula is so nice and it blends so nicely that I'd like to try other shades as well. I think this is really pretty, it's just I have to be careful with it. Now in a similar vein to the Charlotte Tilbury, the Patrick Ta blush, as I was saying, the single pan just doesn't show up on my skin. This is in the shade She's Passionate, and it's a really pretty corally kind of pink, but it just, like, I can load it up and load it up and load it up and it just doesn't show up. What's going on? I liked this when I first got it, so I'm wondering if I got it maybe in winter or something and I had no tan left. Maybe that's why I liked it, because like I really have to build it up in order to be able to see even a hint of pigmentation. So again, I would go for the duos over the singles. Now this little guy here from Nars, this is the Orgasm X Mini Blush. And this one is not shy, that is for sure. Kind of reminds me of the Surratt, to be honest. It has a nice sheen to it, nothing glittery. But again, it's one of those ones that I have to use a really light hand, but she's pretty. She's super pretty. And there you have it. Those are my cheek products that I own. I'd love to hear from you in the comments what some of your favorite blushes, highlighters, bronzers, face palettes, all that good stuff, what some of your favorites are. But for now, I'm going to wrap this video up. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye!